The Mel's Hole was definitely one of Earth's unexplainable mysteries that went far beyond anything your average campfire tale could conjure. A man named Mel Waters was the first person to bring public attention to a strange and unsettling hole. He said that no matter how much rope he lowered into it, the rope never touched the bottom. The area around the hole seemed unnatural. Some people believed the hole was simply very deep, while others felt certain that something unseen was hiding below. Over the years, Mel and his neighbors used the hole as if it had no end. They threw in garbage, old furniture, and broken appliances. Every item disappeared into the darkness without making any noise at all. Wanting answers, Mel decided to experiment on his own. He tied a piece of candy to a fishing line and slowly lowered it into the hole, thinking it might reach water. When he pulled it back up, the candy was still dry. This result only increased his curiosity. He continued lowering more and more line, letting out thousands of feet. Even then, there was no sign of a bottom. It made no sense. How could a hole be that deep? To help others understand, Mel claimed that even Mount Everest could fit inside the hole and still not fill it. However, the depth was not the only unusual aspect. He said the opening was about 9 feet wide and perfectly circular, with stone bricks lining the first 15 feet. It looked like the start of a well that someone had abandoned after realizing it would never end. And for anyone who stayed near the hole for too long, the dizziness and strong feeling of discomfort made one thing clear. There was something very wrong about that place. Events became far more disturbing when a local man threw his dead dog into the hole. A few days later, people claimed they saw that same dog running through the woods. It was alive again, but those who saw it said it moved strangely, as if it had returned from somewhere unnatural. Soon after that, another frightening detail appeared. At night, strange beams of light rose up from the hole, glowing in the darkness. Some of the lights flickered and shifted, while others stayed steady as they reached into the sky like ghostly lamps. Even more unsettling was the sound that followed. A deep humming noise filled the air and sent chills through anyone who heard it. There were many other odd reports as well. Ice taken from near the hole would burn instead of staying frozen, and at times a dark column of light was seen shooting straight upward. After Mel shared his experience publicly,
we need
he
the perimeter
claimed
secured
government
before the
agents
next scan
arrived
sweep.
and removed him
This
from
ground
the
is
land.
harder than...
He spoke of mysterious men, unusual vehicles, and helicopters flying overhead. According to Mel, the property was taken, and when he tried to return, he was blocked at every turn without giving any reason. When Mel asked to speak with the person in charge, a man wearing normal civilian clothes came forward. This man suggested that Mel might no longer have rights to the land, and hinted that illegal actions could be happening there, including secret drug activity. When Mel responded by saying he would contact the media, the man laughed and told him to do whatever he wanted, insisting that no one would believe such unbelievable stories. What the man did not count on was the rising interest from Art Bell and his radio listeners, who were drawn to strange and unexplained stories. Soon after, Art contacted Mel to ask if anything new had taken place. Mel passed along a troubling account from a neighbor who said they saw a dark beam of light shooting straight into the sky and cutting through the clouds. Mel did not see it himself, but the report was still deeply unsettling. The pit itself also seemed different from what Mel had described before. Instead of stone, the inside was lined with a metal ring made from an unusual material. Both curious and careful, Mel and members of the Boss community decided to run a few experiments. They lowered a bucket filled with ice down to 1,000 feet, while keeping another set of ice on the surface for comparison. When the bucket was brought back up, the ice left on the ground had melted, but the ice from deep inside the hole stayed solid. It was warm, dry, and looked more like chunks of salt than ice. When they tried to melt this strange ice with heat, it acted in an even stranger way by catching fire and burning for an extended time. As they continued testing different amounts of ice, the outcomes were not always the same. Sometimes the ice melted normally, while other times it turned into the same burning material. As interest and excitement grew, one person from the Boss group suggested going down into the hole. The group quickly rejected the idea, knowing how dangerous such an action would be. Did you like this video? Tap the like button to let us know this content is making a difference. And if you're watching on your phone, be sure to press the hype button right below. Years later, rumors began to circulate that Mel had been offered millions of dollars to leave the country and never speak about the hole again. Soon after, He disappeared without explanation, and the military reportedly secured the area. Whatever lay at the bottom of that hole, it seemed clear that powerful forces did not want the truth revealed. Even today, stories about Mel's Hole continue to surface. Some people say they have found old maps pointing to its location, only to arrive and find land that looks completely undisturbed, as if the hole had never been there. Others believe the site was deliberately concealed and buried under layers of secrecy. Still, the legend refuses to fade. A hole described as endlessly deep, dark, and unnatural is not something people easily forget. When the radio show ended, Mel promised he would return with more updates, but when the time came for his next appearance, he was gone. He did not answer calls or respond to messages. This silence prompted a television crew to travel to Ellensburg to investigate. They found no sign of the alleged hole, but they did uncover military records and evidence suggesting recent or ongoing military activity in the area. After 3 long years, Mel finally explained what had happened. He claimed he had been offered around $3 million a year to allow his property to be used under strict rules. He was required to stop talking about the site, leave the United States immediately, and agree never to return. At first, leaving seemed straightforward, but it soon led to unexpected consequences. Despite the conditions, Mel accepted the deal and moved to Australia, where he lived for several years. Over time he became homesick and deeply missed his family and his life back home. Eventually he decided to secretly return to the United States to see them again. As he made his way back, he faced growing dangers and unanswered questions, still searching for the truth behind the hole. Ignoring repeated warnings, Mel returned to visit his family and even planned to speak again on Art Bell's radio show. However, events took a sudden and disturbing turn. On the day he was supposed to go on air, Mel was riding a bus to visit his nephew when a heated argument broke out among passengers. The situation escalated so badly that the police were called. Everyone was questioned and then placed on a different bus to continue the trip. The strange events did not end there. Mel suddenly lost consciousness. When he woke up, he was disoriented and lying in an alley in San Francisco, with 12 days missing from his memory. His wallet was gone, his arm was sore and marked with needle wounds, and there were signs that he had received intravenous treatment. Most frightening of all, several of his back teeth were missing. Confused and terrified, Mel was left with more questions than answers. Mel's situation continued to fall apart. He was never able to return to his property, and before long he became involved in legal battles over buildings and roads that had been constructed on his land without his permission. Even though Mel claimed the government had used the property, his explanations made no difference. In the end, he lost everything he owned. When he later tried to contact Art Bell again, Mel discovered that his bank account had been completely drained. As time passed, more people began to question his story, believing it was nothing more than a fabrication. Still, Art Bell remained interested and invited Mel to tell his story once more. During that conversation, Mel revealed that a television crew had attempted to locate the famous hole on his land. They were unable to find it, but they did uncover signs of heavy military activity in the area, which only deepened the mystery. Not long after, a new restriction was put in place that prevented aircraft from flying over Mel's property, and the size of the no-fly zone continued to expand. Then, another strange detail surfaced. A satellite imaging website displayed a large black square covering the area around his land, blocking any view of what was there. While some people took this as proof that Mel's story was invented, the strange restrictions and unexplained events surrounding his property ensured that the story continued to spark curiosity and debate. 6 months had gone by since Mel first contacted Art Bell, with no idea of what was coming next. Just when his story seemed like it could not become any more unusual, something unexpected happened. A Native American tribe from Nevada reached out to Mel after hearing about his discovery of a hole with no bottom. They said they were dealing with a similar situation and believed Mel could help because of what he had already experienced. Motivated by this new opportunity, Mel traveled to Nevada to look into another bottomless pit. This second location was in a different region, and before visiting it, Mel had to speak with members of the local Native American community, known as the Bosque. They wanted to be sure Mel was being honest and had no hidden ties to the media or the government. After they felt confident they could trust him, Mel was brought to the site. Everyone involved wondered what could possibly be at the bottom of this second hole. Unlike the first one, this pit was located on public land rather than tribal land. The Bosque, whose roots traced back to the area between France and Spain and who had lived in Nevada since the 1800s as sheep herders, still claimed the site as meaningful to them. They considered the hole, which was at least 200 years old and about 9 feet wide, to be sacred. The story of this place began in the early 1990s, when geologists and wildlife biologists discovered a vertical shaft hidden in the Amargosa Desert. They did not believe it was a normal geological feature and felt there was something unusual about it. Some believed it could be an entrance to an underwater world filled with ancient pools holding things beyond human understanding. Because of this, the site became known as Devil's Hole. It was not only the hole itself that captured attention, but also the water inside it. Although Devil's Hole is a real location with a deep, water-filled cavern located within a wildlife refuge, many people felt uneasy near it. Locals claimed animals avoided the area. Visitors reported strange problems with technology, saying GPS devices stopped working and cell phone signals vanished when they got too close. The similarities were hard to ignore. There was still more to the mystery. Devil's Hole was located very close to Area 51. A highly secret military base long linked to UFO stories and government secrecy. This is where some people believe the stories connect. They suggest Devil's Hole and Mel's Hole are not just alike, but may be connected deep underground. Some theories claim these holes could be entrances to a massive tunnel system hidden beneath the earth. Whether these paths were created long ago by unknown forces remains a question that has yet to be answered. A new experience changed Mel's life in a way no one expected. Before this event, Mel had been facing a serious cancer diagnosis, and doctors had given him very little hope. After the strange encounter, however, his condition began to improve in ways that could not be explained. His strength returned, and he said he felt better than he had in many years. Several months later, Mel returned to the Coast to Coast radio show with more unusual stories. He spoke again about the strange experiments involving the ice that burned without stopping. One local man from Bosk tried using a piece of this ice in his home to stay warm, but the outcome was much worse than he imagined. The fire created by the ice continued burning for months without fading. It slowly changed the air inside the house, pulling out moisture and leaving everything extremely dry. The man living there became badly dehydrated, and his skin dried out painfully. Even boiling water behaved oddly, as the steam was pulled straight toward the flame instead of rising normally. Then something completely unexpected occurred. The wood stove heated by the strange ice fell through the cabin floor, as if the ground beneath it had weakened. Instead of repairing the damage, the owners covered the hole and kept using the fire. Weeks later, the entire cabin collapsed into dust, as though it had simply worn away. When the owner returned with his brother about a month later, they noticed something shocking. The stove now sat 5 feet lower than before. It appeared that the burning ice had created a small version of Mel's endless pit beneath the stove, surrounded by a smooth, flat surface. They were unable to remove the stove on their own, and only succeeded after bringing in a large crane to lift it out of the newly formed pit. As word spread about the Nevada site, reports began flooding in from across the country. People claimed to have discovered similar bottomless pits in remote locations throughout the American West. Each location shared eerily similar characteristics: perfectly round openings, stone or metal linings, and the complete absence of any detectable bottom despite extensive testing. A pattern emerged from these reports. The holes seemed to cluster around areas with significant geological activity or near military installations. Some researchers theorized that these weren't natural formations at all, but rather access points to something much larger and more complex beneath the Earth's surface. The government's response to each new discovery followed a predictable pattern. Within weeks of any hole being reported, military personnel would arrive to secure the area, no-fly zones would be established, and local residents would be relocated or silenced through various means. The consistency of this response suggested a coordinated effort to suppress information about these sites. One particularly disturbing report came from a geologist who claimed to have mapped the approximate locations of 17 similar holes across 7 states. According to his calculations, the holes formed a rough geometric pattern when viewed from above, suggesting they might be connected by underground passages or serve some coordinated purpose. The most recent and perhaps most terrifying development in the Mel's Hole saga came when a team of independent researchers managed to deploy an advanced drone into one of the newly discovered pits. This wasn't the simple fishing line experiments of the past, but a sophisticated piece of technology equipped with high-definition cameras, depth sensors, and communication equipment. The drone descended for hours, transmitting data back to the surface team. At first, the readings were exactly what everyone expected: endless darkness, stable temperature, and no signs of a bottom. But as the drone reached depths that should have been impossible, something changed. The temperature readings began fluctuating wildly. The drone's cameras started picking up faint sources of light emanating from the walls of the shaft. These weren't reflections or equipment malfunctions, but actual bioluminescent phenomena that seemed to pulse in rhythmic patterns. At a depth of over 15,000 feet, the drone's sensors detected something that shouldn't exist: air currents. Strong, consistent air movements suggested the presence of vast open spaces beyond the narrow shaft. The drone's sonar began mapping what appeared to be enormous caverns extending in multiple directions from the main pit. Then came the discovery that changed everything. The drone's cameras captured movement in the depths, not the random drift of debris or equipment malfunction, but deliberate, purposeful motion. Something was down there, something large enough to register on the drone's motion sensors, and intelligent enough to seem curious about this mechanical intruder. The final transmission from the drone was both brief and terrifying. The cameras showed a massive form approaching from below, something that dwarfed the drone in size. The last image transmitted showed what appeared to be an eye, enormous and unmistakably intelligent, staring directly into the camera before the signal was lost forever. Following the drone incident, government response reached unprecedented levels. Military installations were established around known hole sites, and a new classification level was created specifically for information related to these phenomena. Witnesses began disappearing not just from their homes, but from all official records. The cover-up operation extended beyond simple intimidation. Entire families were relocated under witness protection programs. Their identities changed, and their past lives erased. Property records were altered to show that the land containing the holes had always been government-owned. Satellite imagery was systematically edited to remove any trace of the sites. Most disturbing of all were the reports of memory modification procedures. Several individuals who had encountered the holes reported experiencing gaps in their memory, similar to what Mel had described after his mysterious 12-day disappearance. Medical examinations revealed evidence of sophisticated neurological interventions, suggesting the government had developed technology capable of selectively erasing specific memories. The scope of the cover-up became apparent when researchers discovered that academic papers, news articles, and even radio show transcripts mentioning the holes were being systematically removed from archives and databases. The Art Bell interviews with Mel Waters, once easily accessible online, became increasingly difficult to find as copies were deleted from servers worldwide. As the American government worked to suppress information about the holes, reports began emerging from other countries describing similar phenomena. Remote areas of Siberia, the Australian outback, and the Sahara Desert all yielded accounts of bottomless pits with characteristics identical to those found in the United States. International researchers who attempted to investigate these sites faced the same pattern of government interference experienced in America. Military cordons, no-fly zones, and witness intimidation became standard responses regardless of the country involved. This suggested a level of international cooperation that transcended normal diplomatic boundaries. The global nature of the phenomenon raised disturbing questions about what these holes might represent. Were they natural formations that occurred worldwide, or were they artificial constructs created by some unknown intelligence? The geometric patterns observed in their placement, combined with their identical characteristics across vast distances, suggested a level of planning and coordination that defied conventional explanation. Some researchers theorized that the holes might be part of an ancient network, predating human civilization. Others suggested they could be monitoring stations or access points created by a non-human intelligence. The most terrifying possibility was that they represented preparation for something yet to come, a global infrastructure designed for purposes that remained hidden. As government suppression efforts intensified, the phenomena associated with the holes began manifesting in new and more disturbing ways. Reports emerged of temporal anomalies occurring near the sealed sites. People living in the vicinity experienced time slips, finding themselves momentarily transported to different eras or witnessing events from the past and future simultaneously. Electronic devices began malfunctioning in increasingly sophisticated ways. Rather than simple failures, equipment near the holes started displaying impossible readings and receiving signals from sources that shouldn't exist. Radio receivers picked up broadcasts from decades in the past, while GPS systems showed locations that corresponded to no known geography. Some devices began transmitting data to unknown recipients, suggesting that whatever intelligence was associated with the holes had learned to interface with human technology. The biological effects extended beyond the resurrection of dead animals. Living creatures exposed to the hole's influence began exhibiting rapid evolutionary changes. Plants grew in impossible configurations, developing new organs and capabilities within days rather than generations. Animals displayed enhanced intelligence and behavioral patterns that suggested they were being directed by an external consciousness. Most disturbing were the reports of human changes. Individuals who had prolonged exposure to the holes began developing enhanced sensory capabilities and what could only be described as psychic abilities. They reported being able to sense the presence of the underground network and communicate with the entities that inhabited it. These enhanced humans became conduits for information about the true nature of the holes and the intelligence behind them. The mystery of Mel's hole has evolved from a simple tale of a bottomless pit into a revelation about humanity's place in a much larger and more complex reality. What began as one man's strange discovery has unveiled evidence of an ancient civilization that has been watching and waiting beneath our feet for millions of years. The government's attempts to suppress this information reflect an understanding that humanity is not prepared for the truth about what lies beneath the Earth's surface. The holes represent not just physical anomalies, but gateways to a reality that challenges everything we believe about our world and our place in it. What do you think lies at the bottom of these mysterious holes? Are they gateways to another dimension, monitoring stations for an ancient civilization, or something even more terrifying? Share your theories in the comments below, and let us know if you've ever encountered anything similar in your area. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming journeys. And if you enjoy exploring intriguing details about mysterious places, our next video will take you deeper into Area 51, where a former employee reveals secret images of advanced propulsion research activities. Click on the card displayed on the screen now. Enjoy the video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.